Hi, I'm Reverend Paula Skiles, and this is Unity Church of San Marcos. This is a wonderful experience today. This is Sunday before Memorial. This is our Memorial Day weekend. I'll get it out there. But I want this service is going to be a little different than some of our other services. It's going to be a participatory service. And your thoughts, your ideas, they're important. But just know that you will be recorded if you say something, and I hope you do participate, because it'll be a pretty boring service if we don't have something else to say besides me. So, and we want to keep everybody on their toes out there and wherever you are.
Right.
Yes. All right. So, Elizabeth Lesser said, "I've found that the changes I feared would ruin me have always become doorways, and on the other side, I have a more courageous and graceful self." The other side is the title to this message, and it's about questions of life and afterlife. So remembrance is what we're about this weekend. All right, this is the Memorial Day weekend, and when many of us in this country take the time to remember those fallen warriors who have died in battle and have gone on to the other side. And remembrance can take many shapes and forms. As a matter of fact, one of them is to light a candle. And I do so now. And we do this in remembrance of the light of their being. I think if you look at it, this is an experience that you can see lightens up. And I think that effect of just lighting a candle is so symbolic within our own being, and it's important. There are common things people do. They hang a flag or go to the national cemeteries or things like that. But here are a couple of other things that we can do to reflect, if you will, and to remember and to honor those individuals who've given everything. Plant a tree in memory of a fallen soldier. Okay. 2, make a donation to a local or national group that supports the armed services, surviving veterans or military families, or even make a meal for a veteran, if any of those seem appropriate. 3, tomorrow, Monday, pause at 3 p.m. for 60 seconds during the national moment of remembrance. 4, and this one, it seems to me, would be kind of important, and that's to take time this weekend to talk to our children or our grandchildren about war and how it's not like the video games that they play, and how serious and how deadly it can be and what the effects are. And so I have a couple of questions. One of them is, do we have anyone here this morning who actually has had someone that you lost during an American war in battle? No? Okay. No? Yes?
No.
Any personal reflections you want to share?
When I was a little girl, I woke up and my grandmother was crying, who lived with us. And I said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "Uncle Ray died." Now, Uncle Ray was in World War II, and he, after at the end, and he never was the same after he helped rescue the people from a concentration camp. He really didn't talk hardly at all after that. He was fun-loving before that, and he just never wanted to talk about war or mention anything that happened to him or his sadness, but he was perpetually, forever sad.
Perpetually sad, yeah. The horror of war is just so profound. It really is. Violence, actually. The horror of violence, whether it's in the shape of war or another shape. It really just affects us. Things like violence or peace, they have a specific vibration, and those things affect us, and they affect our minds, and they cause us to resonate in certain ways and to act or react in certain ways.
It's just like the children who were killed with a weapon that's used for armed services.
Yes, yeah, the children who were killed recently, yes. And we're going to talk about that too for a moment. We are. So what does Memorial Day mean for you? What does Memorial Day mean for you? I'll start. For me, it usually brings up a lot of questions about our ethics, our world, our circumstances, if you will, that we find ourselves in constantly at war with someone or something. And questions about why. Why are we doing that? What is it that is prompting those things? And is there something we can do about them? So I have lots of questions. And it also brings up, questions of just life in general. And then, of course, questions of the afterlife. For me, Memorial Day, personally, I spend it going to enjoy being in the presence or in the mindset, if you will, at the Memorial Cemetery where my late husband is buried. And it helps me connect. It helps me to remember that maybe he didn't die in the battle proper, but as a result of everything that he experienced, he died in battle. He just didn't leave his body until a number of years later. And so, as your Uncle Ray, he experienced everything from night terrors to visions to depression to all kinds of things. And so Memorial Day for me is also a day of remembering not only how much they gave, but the power that their lives have had over our experience of what went on. And it's pretty powerful to me, Memorial Day. Anyone else have a Memorial Day, what Memorial Day means to you?
I was just thinking two things. When I first came in here, I was running late, and this little boy was sitting right here, and he went like this, and his father said, like a gun, like he made a sign, like a gun.
A gun.
His father said, don't do that. And I didn't have time to explain why his dad was so upset about that right now, especially in Texas. There's another thought, but it's gone now. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of, it affects everything, doesn't it? It does. Many of us have not lost someone close to us in battle. And so, I sometimes wonder, other than, I think it's a pretty good reason for a holiday, do we really need a Memorial Day?
Yes.
Yes.
We do need
Yes.
Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Bottom line, yes.
We're living.
It is important for several reasons, but the main thing that I know is remembrance helps a grieving and grateful nation to cope with its despair, its sadness, its disbelief, its anger, all the things of grief that we experience. And there are people, not too many, still living that were a part of the World Wars and the Vietnam Wars. And we lost many, many, many of our soldiers in those time frames. And as you and I are remembering our fallen soldiers this weekend, I honestly believe that it's important that we also acknowledge that we as a state, at least, if not the country, and I believe the country, are also grieving the unwilling warriors who didn't volunteer, the children and the adults in the schools over our war with guns and mental health. Because that's what it's about. It's a war about guns and mental health, and that's how I see it. And it's not about one or the other. It's about those things are intricately interwoven, because the individuals who are perpetuating this type of violence mentally don't have resources. So to me, there's so much. But bottom line, it's important to recognize that meditation on peace or love or these types of things actually has and does make a difference, whether you believe it or not, in the afterlife as well as now. And so I'm going to lead us in a short meditation for the children and the fallen warriors, in which we simply send them peace and love. And recognize, we know that we don't have to know their names, because there are thousands and thousands of soldiers who have passed in battle. We don't have to know where they lived or where they came from or what country they were in when they died or any of those things. All we have to know is that God knows. And then within spirit, they are present. They are present. And our love, our peace that we send in this moment has an effect, not only in this world, but in their world. So let's take a moment, if you will, to just breathe in. And if you will, if you want to, you can focus on the light for a moment. Whatever you'd like to do, whether you shut your eyes or simply breathe quietly and connect to that sense of love. Maybe being loved, feeling love, whatever it is, connect to that for just a few moments to the deepest level that you can hold it, the sweetness of it, the joy of it, love, and the wonder of it. Let it simply bubble up in your heart and in your being, that sense of love and being loved. And with that comes a sense of profound peace. Let that peace that we know is possible seep into the pores of your being. And then seeing each as this beautiful lights that we simply hold within our heart. The light of peace and the light of love. And I encourage you right now to know that Spirit is everywhere present, and that afterlife that we speak of and think of is everywhere present as well. And so where we are in this moment is but a moment to give that love and that peace. And so we do. We simply share it and let it beam and shine forth from our being, knowing that God, in God's infinite wisdom, the power of Spirit is making it go further, expand more, deepen and broaden, and become more than even we are able to hold or to imagine or to experience and feel. That part is God's work. That part is God's miracle. And for the people and the children who have fallen through the wars of this country, this Memorial Weekend, we remember you. We remember you knowing that though you may have passed, you have an existence that is powerful and real, and it deserves this love and this peace as much as anything or any being. And so I invite you to simply let it go. Let it go to them. However that works for you. And so we say, thank you, Spirit, that you live, move, and have your being within us. Padma Aum says, the universe is vibration. All vibration has a single source, and this single source lies within all vibrations. This consciousness births all vibrations, generates all modes of vibration in order to express the inexpressible and manifest the formless into form. I once wondered about angels and the afterlife and things like that. And I did a little meditation on it. And the thing that came to me and Spirit revealed, that I feel was really truly revealed, is the only reason, and this was a thought that just, as clear as it can be, the only reason you and I don't see the angels is because they vibrate at a different level than our brains can perceive at that moment. Our brains have a certain hertz that they vibrate at, and whether it's in an alpha, delta, or beta, or whatever state it is in. And they perceive, it's our brains that perceive more than our eyes. And so it is that thought that helped me to understand that everything in the eternal life that we experience is vibrating at certain levels. And you and I can change and shift our own vibratory levels through peace, through love, through compassion, through giving or gratitude, through all types of principles of being as we take them in, as we live them, as we express them. And so I think about how the inexpressible and manifest the formless into form. I think about that statement. That's a powerful statement. So our act of remembrance right now that we just did, it sets up a vibration that is experienced even in the afterlife. That vibration is real. And it goes into, if you will, the ones who need it, if you will. It cannot help but go and flow to those who are hungering for that, whether it's on this world or the next. Where do you think the soul goes after it leaves the body? Where do you
I think about that a lot.
Okay, where do
And
you
I
think?
remember one time after my dog, the love of my life, passed away, my therapist said, where do you think he is? And I said, he's right here, in my heart.
In your heart, uh-huh.
And he'll always be there.
Yeah.
And the connection, is so powerful. And even though he was an animal, he was a being to me. And I don't know if this sounds bad or not, but of all the people that I've lost in my life, my pain of losing Chester has been the hardest to work through. So I have to, go back through all the memories and the good stuff. Mm-hmm. And I felt like sometimes that, I felt like all the time that he was basically my savior, that he was helping me stay alive, just like my daughter did. Because I didn't want to stay alive for a long time, and speaking of mental health, I'm extremely fortunate that I got the help that I needed. And a lot of that help was from just knowing that my daughter loved me and she was alive and she was amazing and she kept me alive. And those are the kind of things I think about is the life part. And then the death part, the afterlife, I can't make any sense of it
Okay,
at all.
that's a fair statement. Anyone else? Where do you think souls go when they leave the body?
Well, I think my mom hung around for a while.
You think your mom hung around for a while, okay.
My sister spoke about, a week or so after Mom passed away, and Donna was in her sewing room, which is where Mother and Donna really connected, in the sewing room, and on the phone about the sewing and all of that. And one day Donna was sewing, and she heard a bell tinkling. And
She heard a bell tinkling?
Mhm.
Okay.
And she didn't, at first was like, what, but she heard it more than once, several times.
The spirits never really leave, but we're not aware of them as much
And
because
Donna,
exactly
but
what
Donna
you
was, really, she called me, she said, do you think that was Mother?
said. Yes, it
Do you
was.
think it was Mother? I said, oh, definitely.
I hear
Oh,
you.
definitely. I really believe that. So then later on, Cherie was talking about her mother. And that her mother left her feathers at her bed, by her bed. And she felt like it was her mother because they had a thing about white feathers, she and her mother. So they had that connection, so one day she found this feather on her bed. From, like, where would this feather come from on your bed?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I remember that day, she was telling that story, we were in our prayer group, and I said, I want a feather. I want Mom to send me a feather. That's what I want, because I had been yearning for something from my mom, because Donna got the bells, and I was like, well, I want her to show me she loves me too. I want a feather. Well, bless Patty, wasn't too many days or so later, going out of my driveway, out at the front gate, well, I saw this feather. Well, I didn't pay attention to it. I went on, drove on out the gate, come back. I did that 3 days, in and out that gate, and I'd see that feather, and I was going, you know what? That feather is there for me. It has not, and we've had a windy days and all kind of stuff. That feather should have gone. It should have flown away. But no, it was nestled down in that grass.
Yeah.
That feather. And I have that feather
Awesome.
because I believe that
Okay.
Mom brought me that feather. And I,
Okay.
from time to time, asked for a feather.
You got your feather. Good deal.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So,
believe that there's some, she hears me.
Well, I know a month after my mother died, I smelled her. Don't ask me what the perfume is, because I can't remember right now. But it was her favorite perfume. And I woke up at night smelling that.
oh yes, yes.
Wow.
I really felt like she was there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, we feel that there is an afterlife that the souls go to. Many of them are even able to signal or to show presence in some way to individuals. So, for many of us, this is significant and it has deep healing qualities. Ancient wisdoms used to offer this kind of advice. They said, good souls are instructed to depart to the mercy of God. Then the belief became that our souls leave the body flowing as easily as a drop from a water skin. They are wrapped by angels in a perfumed shroud and are taken to the seventh heaven where the record is kept. So, there are certain beliefs that many of us hold, like, and you may even hear sayings like, well, they're in a better place now, or he's finally at peace, Or you've heard a lot of these statements, and they're meant to, and many of them do offer us some sense of comfort, right? And see you on the other side is a statement that conveys dimensions, and we think of them as heaven or hell. And so the afterlife, in its more, herein is, I'm defining it as the supernatural realm that is inhabited by the spirits or souls of the deceased, okay, is commonly called heaven, or even can be called hell. And these are dimensions, if you will, of existence, all right? And the afterlife is one aspect of our existence as beings of life, eternal life. And we do have eternal life. There's a Netflix series that claims to prove there is life after death. And it uses, however, some things that have been debunked, as far as scientific processes. And it talks as if there are questions that science which has not answered yet, but has. It tries to portray them as having answered these questions. And it explores questions of life, like from people who have returned from death or had near-death experiences, is the way we think of it, or even mediums or seances or ghost hunting, all types of supernatural experiences or expressions and phenomena. And it even treats religion and faith as something that is to be proven or disproved. Okay. I would like us to take a moment to think about what my friend and colleague, Reverend Jim Gaither, said. He said, science measures forms and motions of forms, including vibrations. Consciousness is the field in which all the forms and motions and measurements are perceived. Our bodies, brains, and objects in the universe are all part of consciousness, perceived in subjective consciousness, meaning our own personal subjective consciousness. Science occurs within consciousness. Hence, it cannot identify consciousness as form nor measure consciousness. Saying consciousness is effective vibrations of things doesn't really solve the problem any more than saying consciousness is brain. Okay. So there's many, many different thoughts. What do you think the afterlife is like? Don't have any idea?
No, I don't have any.
No ideas?
No.
What do you think?
Give us some idea.
Well, I tell you, we hear a lot about, streets of gold, floating on clouds,
Yeah. blissful
ninnies, or burning in hell and torment, right? Personally, I'm a little more of the scientific mindset. And that has to do with looking at life is all about vibration. And we recognize that while we may not, as my friend says, measure consciousness as a whole, what we can measure are the constituent parts of things, such as our own brain waves, our own heart and body. Each part of our organs, they all resonate to a specific hertz. Everything in this universe, the light that comes to us from the different planets, everything has a vibration. Everything that exists, and it came from the invisible into the visible through vibration, right? Through that brought it in. And love has a vibration. Peace has a vibration. Strength, compassion, joy, gratitude, all of these. So does hatred and anger and bitterness and resentment and pity and sorrow. All of these have a specific vibration. And if most of our life is lived in a specific vibration of anger or bitterness. I don't think you're going to die and automatically become peaceful. I really don't. I really believe that that vibration has to be dealt with. And if you're not dealing with it in this form, you will deal with it in another form. And that's my thought process on
Catch
what
up
the
with you
afterlife.
later.
Well, the afterlife to me is a place in which, honestly, you are even more connected to the vibration of being, because that is the fount from which all existence comes forth and returns to. And so I think that the work we do in the afterlife is a lot more intense, honestly. So I'm real happy to do whatever I need to do in this life.
While you're living.
So then, do you think that if we didn't do our work here, that we have more work to do when we leave?
I don't know about more work. It just won't, it's just that it won't be gone. I don't think there's this little change, if you will, that occurs in our consciousness on that level just because our souls no longer are embodying a physical body. I do believe that that our souls encompass all of our being, all right, in such a way that even though we may be bothered, if you will, by personality issues, that's kind of the best way I can think of it. Personality issues. Maybe we are self-centered, or maybe we're too compassionate. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. Too giving, too whatever. Or maybe we're, to me, these are temporary personality issues. They're not dealing on the level of our being. And our being is what I'm speaking of. Our being is the essence of who we are, our soul, our being. And that's the part of us that exists within, not specifically the patterns of mindset that we have built up, all right? The attitudes or the belief systems or the things that, to me, consciousness becomes existence in the afterlife. And our being is what it is then. Let me see if I can make this a little more clear. At the point in which you and I no longer embody a physical presence, because our bodies are kind of like a car, if you will, you know, that we get in and we travel in for a while. Our existence was prior to and after physical embodiment. Incarnation is an aspect of the road of life that we travel. And our souls take on specific purposes as we come into this world in order to not make ourselves whole, because we already are whole, but in order to bloom, in order to blossom, to experience, in order to have the capacity to move into what it is our souls are. And some of us do that very readily, and we you know, we're affected, if you will, by things, and we move and we do, and then some of us, the experiences of life change us on a deep level, and we resist, or we hide, or we cannot be that vulnerable, or we cannot be whatever it is that we came here to be. So when we do leave, we still have to get back to being what it is our souls need to do to be. And that doesn't mean we're in torment or in hell or we're frustrated, because existence on a soul level is not the kind within a mind. It's a different existence. And it has a different way of being. So, my thoughts are understanding that on the other side, you and I not only have presence, but we have understanding. We have comprehension. We have so many other things. And we look at who and what we are through a lens of love, through a lens of God's grace, or through a lens of power and not powerlessness, and so many different things. And I'm pretty clear that while we won't be walking on clouds or burning in torment forever, there is an existence within the afterlife that is unique to each of us, according to our being. And I don't think it's bad. I think it can only be good. And so, for now, I think I need to go ahead and close with this thought. We don't know for a certainty what the afterlife is. I've shared my thoughts and my ideas. And I don't know what awaits for certain. I have glimpses. I have things that come to me, whether it's in dreams or in meditation or different ways, and they just point and they give me thoughts and insights. And so do you. But what I have determined is that what's important is that I simply try to live the best life I can right now, to bring as much good into and through my world. And that's what I have come to see. God bless you.